Have you ever looked at an older couple sitting silently across from each other at a restaurant, barely speaking, barely looking at one another, and wondered, how did they get here? They were once young and in love, filled with passion and excitement for each other, but now the spark has faded, replaced by quiet indifference, maybe even resentment. If you're a husband watching this, you might have noticed your wife becoming more distant over the years, less eager to engage, less affectionate. And if you're a wife, you might have felt that shift within yourself. The question is, why? This isn't about falling out of love. It's about realizing what love should feel like and understanding how, over time, relationships can shift in ways we never expected. If you've been married for years or even decades, this is something you need to hear because it might just change the way you see your relationship forever. Let me tell you a story. The silent weight women carry. I remember hearing a story about a woman named Linda. She had been married for nearly 40 years. In the beginning, she and her husband Mark were inseparable. They laughed, shared secrets, and talked about everything under the sun. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Linda started feeling exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. She carried the weight of the marriage, of the family, of everything. And Mark? He didn't even realize it was happening. This is what we call emotional labor, and it's something many women carry in their marriages without even realizing it. It's remembering birthdays, planning family events, making sure the kids get to their appointments, ensuring the fridge is stocked, and knowing when the bills are due. It's thinking about everything that needs to be done, even when she's not the one physically doing it. For decades, Linda carried this silent weight, believing it was just part of being a wife and a mother. But as she got older, she started to realize something painful. She was exhausted, and Mark had no idea. And when she finally spoke up about it, his response was, "Why didn't you just tell me?" And there it was, the core of the problem. She had told him in 1,000 different ways, but he never truly heard her. Why this becomes more painful with age. When a woman is young, she has energy. She can juggle responsibilities, manage a household, and still find time to be affectionate and loving. But as she ages, that energy fades. The responsibilities don't go away, though. In fact, they can feel heavier than ever. Think about it. A woman spends decades caring for everyone around her. By the time she reaches her later years, she starts wondering, who is caring for me? And when she looks at her husband and realizes that he has never carried the same weight she has, it creates resentment. Not overnight, not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, over the years, through every unacknowledged effort, every moment of feeling unseen. Linda used to love planning their anniversary dinners. She used to remind Mark about their children's birthdays, about doctor's appointments, about their aging parents who needed care. But now she was tired. She wanted someone to remember for her, to take some of the weight off her shoulders. And when Mark didn't, she didn't argue. She didn't yell, she just withdrew. And Mark, like so many husbands, had no idea why. The solution, a wake-up call for husbands. If you're a husband watching this and wondering if your wife feels this way, she probably does. But don't panic, this isn't about blame. This is about understanding. Because the good news is, it's not too late to change this. Ask yourself, when was the last time I took responsibility for something without my wife having to remind me? When was the last time you noticed how much she does without her having to ask? If you can't remember, then maybe it's time to pay attention. This isn't about grand romantic gestures. You don't need to book an expensive vacation or write a love letter. Though, honestly, she wouldn't mind that either. It's about showing up in the small ways that matter. It's about saying, I see you. I appreciate you. Let me help you. Because the truth is, love fades when one person carries the weight alone for too long, but it can be revived when both partners decide to share the load. What wives need to hear, and if you're a wife watching this, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not crazy for feeling tired. You're not wrong for wanting more support. Your needs matter. Your exhaustion is real. But here's the thing. Sometimes, husbands don't know what they don't know. If he truly doesn't see it, you have to tell him. And I mean really tell him, not through sighs or passive comments, but through honest, open communication. Sit him down, look him in the eye, and say, I need your help. I cannot keep carrying this alone. And then see if he listens. Because a good husband, a husband who truly loves you, he will listen. And if he doesn't, then maybe it's time for a deeper conversation about what you truly need. Why this matters for your marriage. If you're still watching this, it means you care. It means you want to understand why so many marriages fade with time. But more importantly, it means you want to prevent it from happening to yours. So here's what I want you to do. If you're a husband, try this. Tonight, when your wife least expects it, do something she normally does without being asked. Make dinner. Handle a household task. Ask her how she's feeling, not just about her day, but about life. And then listen. Really listen. And wives, if this video resonated with you, share it with your husband. Let him hear these words. Because sometimes all it takes is a little understanding to bring two people back together. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below. Have you ever felt like Linda? Or are you a husband who has recently realized how much your wife does for you? Let's talk about it. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's so much more we need to talk about when it comes to love, marriage, and growing old together. Because at the end of the day, love doesn't disappear in one grand moment. It fades in the small, unnoticed ones. But if we pay attention, we can bring it back, stronger than ever. Linda sat at the kitchen table one evening staring at her cup of tea. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Mark was in the living room, watching the same nightly news he always did. She thought about calling him over, about starting a conversation, but then, what was the point? She knew exactly how it would go. She'd ask how his day was, and he'd respond with the usual, "It was fine." If she tried to talk about something that mattered to her worries, her thoughts about their future, her feelings of exhaustion, he would probably nod along, maybe give a short response, and then go back to whatever he was doing. She'd feel like she was talking to a wall. So instead, she sipped her tea in silence, just like she had so many nights before. When conversations become empty, one of the most heartbreaking things in a long-term marriage is not fighting, it's silence. In the beginning, conversations are effortless. You stay up late talking about your dreams, your fears, your silly childhood stories. You ask each other deep questions, eager to learn more about one another. But somewhere along the way, those conversations fade. The questions stop. The curiosity disappears. For many women, this is when the loneliness begins. It's not just about talking, it's about connecting. A woman doesn't need constant attention, but she does need to feel seen and heard. And when years pass without meaningful conversation, she starts to feel invisible. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you and your spouse talked about something real? Not about groceries or bills or what needs to be fixed around the house, but about life. When was the last time you asked, "How have you been feeling lately?" Or "What's been on your mind?" Because if it's been a while, your wife has noticed. Why this happens in long-term marriages. Mark wasn't a bad husband. He wasn't cruel. He didn't yell. He didn't mistreat Linda. But he had stopped trying. Somewhere along the way, he had settled into routine, assuming that because they lived under the same roof, because they shared meals and went to bed at the same time, they were fine. But here's the truth. Existing together is not the same as being connected. For so many husbands, they assume their wives are fine because they aren't complaining. But what they don't realize is that women often stop complaining when they stop believing things will change. This was exactly where Linda found herself. She didn't stop talking because she had nothing to say. She stopped talking because she didn't feel heard. And once a woman reaches that point, pulling her back isn't easy. The growing resentment of being unheard. One night, Linda tried to bring it up. She told Mark, "I miss the way we used to talk. It feels like we don't really connect anymore." Mark, confused, looked up from his newspaper and said, "What do you mean?" "We talk all the time." That's when she realized he truly didn't see it. He thought that because they exchanged words every day, they were communicating. But what Linda craved was more than surface-level talk. She wanted depth. She wanted emotion. She wanted to feel like she still mattered to him, beyond just being the woman he shared a house with. And that's where so many marriages start to crack. A woman who feels unheard will eventually stop talking. A woman who feels unseen will eventually pull away. And a woman who feels unappreciated will, over time, start to question why she's still in a marriage that makes her feel so alone. The solution: how to bring back real conversations. If you're a husband watching this, I want to challenge you. Tonight, instead of just going through your usual routine, try something different. When your wife sits down next to you, put away your phone, turn off the TV, and ask her, "What's been on your mind lately?" And then listen, not halfway, not distractedly, truly listen. You might be surprised at what she tells you, because the truth is, she hasn't stopped wanting to talk to you. She's just stopped believing that you want to listen. And wives, if you're feeling disconnected, I know it's exhausting to always be the one trying to start the conversations, but don't give up just yet. Sometimes men don't realize how much they've checked out emotionally until it's pointed out to them. Sit down with your husband and tell him, "I need more from you, not just your presence, but your attention." A good man, a man who truly values his marriage, will listen. But he has to know that this is a problem in the first place. Why this matters for your future. If you're still watching this, it means you care. It means you're willing to take a step toward fixing this before it's too late. Because here's the harsh truth. If a woman spends enough years feeling unheard, she won't just pull away emotionally. She'll start to pull away physically. She'll stop trying, she'll stop initiating, and eventually she'll stop caring. And once a woman stops caring, that's when marriages truly begin to die. But it doesn't have to be this way. You don't need a grand gesture. You don't need to buy expensive gifts. You just need to pay attention. You need to make her feel like she still matters. And it starts with something as simple as a conversation. If this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt this way in your marriage? Or, if you're a husband, are you realizing now that your wife might feel like this? Let's talk about it. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we have so much more to talk about when it comes to love, connection, and growing old together. Because love doesn't disappear all at once. It fades in the moments where we stop seeing each other. But if we try, if we truly try, we can bring it back. Linda used to love Saturdays. In the early years of her marriage, she and Mark would wake up together, cook breakfast, and talk about their plans for the weekend. Sometimes they'd take long drives, stop at roadside cafes, or visit antique shops just for fun. But now, Saturdays felt like any other day. Mark would sit in his chair flipping through the newspaper while Linda moved through the house, tidying up, planning meals, making sure things were in order. She didn't mind taking care of the home, but what frustrated her was that the work never seemed to end. And the worst part? Mark barely noticed. She had once believed that when they both retired, things would get easier. She thought they'd share responsibilities, enjoy their free time, maybe travel a little. Instead, she felt like she was working even more, only this time without the recognition or appreciation. And just like that, another layer of resentment began to build, the never-ending burden of housework. Here's the truth. Even in modern times, women still do the majority of household chores, even after retirement. Studies show that even when both partners are no longer working, the expectation often remains the same. She cooks, she cleans, she manages the household. And for many women, after decades of doing this, they've simply had enough. It starts with small annoyances. A husband leaves his coffee cup in the sink instead of washing it. He forgets to put his socks in the laundry basket. He doesn't think to vacuum or wipe down the counters. At first, a wife might remind him. She might even laugh about it. But when it happens every single day for years, without change, something shifts. She stops laughing. She starts feeling unappreciated, unseen, and exhausted. Because this isn't just about washing a few dishes, it's about carrying the mental and emotional load of keeping a household running. Linda had been doing it for 40 years. She had spent her youth making sure the kids had lunches packed, doctor's appointments scheduled, and groceries stocked. She had spent holidays making sure everything was perfect. Gifts wrapped, meals cooked, guests taken care of. And all these years, Mark had simply enjoyed those moments without realizing how much work they required. And now, in retirement, when she thought she'd finally get to rest, she found herself still doing it all. And she was tired. Why this becomes a breaking point. Linda didn't want to fight. She wasn't the kind of woman who yelled or made a scene. But over time, she stopped doing things for Mark the way she used to. She stopped cooking his favorite meals. She stopped reminding him about things he needed to do. She stopped making an effort to take care of the little things that used to make their house feel like a home. Why? Because she had nothing left to give. Many women reach this point in their later years. They don't stop loving their husbands, but they do stop trying, because they feel like their efforts have never been truly acknowledged. And here's the heartbreaking part: most men don't even notice until it's too late. A woman who has spent decades feeling like she's carrying the weight of the marriage will at some point hit a wall. She'll stop asking for help. She'll stop hoping for change. And that's when she starts to feel like she's no longer a wife but a caretaker, or worse, a roommate. The solution: sharing the load before it's too late. Husbands, if you're watching this, I need you to ask yourself a serious question. When was the last time you truly helped around the house without being asked? Not just taking out the trash because she reminded you. Not just helping with the dishes one night because she looked frustrated, but actually noticing what needs to be done and doing it because you care? Because if your wife has been doing everything for the past 30 or 40 years, she is tired. And if she hasn't told you yet, it's not because she doesn't feel it, it's because she's already given up on expecting things to change. But here's the good news: it's not too late to fix this. Start small. Notice what she does, thank her for it, and most importantly, take action. If you see dishes in the sink, wash them. If you see laundry piling up, put it in the washer. If the floor needs vacuuming, don't wait for her to ask. Just do it. It's not about grand gestures. It's about showing that you see her, that you appreciate her, that you're willing to be her partner, not just her dependent. What wives need to hear. And to the wives watching this, I know what you're thinking. I shouldn't have to ask. And you're right, you shouldn't. But some men, after years of never having to think about these things, simply don't realize how much you're carrying. So here's my advice: be honest. Tell him, I need help. I can't do this alone anymore. And if he loves you, if he truly values your marriage, he will listen. And if you're thinking, but I've said it before, and nothing changes, then it's time to go deeper. Sit down, look him in the eye, and say, this isn't just about chores. It's about feeling valued in this marriage. If I keep doing everything alone, I'm going to start pulling away. That is the reality, and he needs to hear it. Why this matters for your marriage. If you're still watching, it means you care, and that's the first step. Because here's the truth: a marriage doesn't fall apart overnight. It falls apart in the small, unnoticed moments. The unwashed dishes, the ignored conversations, the emotional distance that grows every time a wife feels unseen. But it can also be rebuilt. If you start paying attention now, you can bring the love back. So tonight, husbands, before your wife gets up to clean the kitchen after dinner, stop her. Tell her, I got this. And actually mean it. And wives, if this video spoke to you, share it with your husband. Let him hear these words. Because love isn't about big romantic gestures. It's about showing up for each other every single day. If you've ever felt like Linda, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're a husband who's realizing you might have been missing something all these years, tell me. What's one thing you're going to change? And if this video helped you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we're just getting started on this conversation about love, marriage, and growing old together. Because love doesn't disappear all at once. It fades in the moments we stop seeing each other. But if we truly try, we can bring it back. Linda had always believed that love, real love, wasn't about grand gestures. It was about the little things, the way Mark used to reach for her hand when they walked together, the way he'd pull her close in the kitchen just for a quick kiss, the way he used to look at her like she was the most important person in the world. But those moments had disappeared. Now they barely touched. They barely talked. She still loved him, at least she thought she did. But the warmth, the excitement, the desire, it had faded into something that felt more like routine than romance. She had become his caretaker, his housekeeper, his lifelong companion. But not his lover, and that realization was breaking her heart. When physical and emotional intimacy disappear. Here's something many people don't realize. Intimacy is not just about physical touch. It's about feeling connected, desired, and appreciated. And when that disappears, a marriage can start to feel less like a partnership and more like a lifelong obligation. In the early years, couples crave each other. They hold hands without thinking, they touch in passing, they make each other feel wanted, chosen. But as the years pass, many husbands stop doing the little things that once made their wives feel special. And eventually, wives stop craving that connection, not because they don't want it, but because they've learned to live without it. For Linda, it wasn't just that Mark had stopped being affectionate, it was that he had stopped seeing her as someone to be desired. He still cared for her, still shared a life with her, but the romance had disappeared. She would get dressed up for an evening out, hoping he'd notice, hoping for a simple, "Wow, you look beautiful." But all she'd get was a quick glance, maybe a nod, before he went back to whatever he was doing. She would reach for his hand in the car and he wouldn't pull away, but he wouldn't hold on either. She would sit beside him on the couch, longing for him to wrap an arm around her, only to realize he was more engaged with the television than with her. And over time, she just stopped trying. Why this hurts more as women age? When a woman is young, she has other distractions, kids to care for, a busy household, a full schedule. She may miss the intimacy but assume it will return when life slows down. But when a woman reaches her later years, when the children are grown and life has settled, she begins to see her marriage for what it truly is. And if she no longer feels loved, seen, or desired, it starts to feel like she's just existing alongside her husband, rather than sharing a life with him. And that realization is devastating. Many women don't want to lose the intimacy in their marriage. They want to feel cherished, adored, and wanted, just like they did in the beginning. But when the distance grows too wide, when the absence of connection becomes normal, they begin to emotionally detach. And that's when a marriage truly starts to crumble. The retirement shift, when togetherness feels suffocating. Linda used to dream about retirement. She imagined long, relaxing mornings together, spontaneous weekend getaways, peaceful walks in the park. She thought retirement would bring them closer, give them a chance to enjoy each other without the stress of work or raising a family. But instead, retirement felt like a trap. Mark suddenly had nothing to do, and he expected Linda to fill his time. She became his entertainment committee, his personal assistant, his source of constant company. He would follow her around the house asking, "What's for lunch?" or "What should we do today?" Never realizing that she had spent her entire life taking care of other people. And now, she just wanted some space. And worst of all, he still wasn't making an effort to connect with her. He wanted her to be there, but he wasn't engaging with her. So instead of retirement feeling like a golden chapter, it felt suffocating. Linda felt like she had spent her entire life giving to others, and now, in the years she had looked forward to the most, she still couldn't just breathe. The solution: rebuilding connection before it's too late. If you're a husband watching this, I need you to understand something. Your wife still wants to feel like a woman, not just a partner. She wants to feel seen. She wants to feel desired. She wants to feel like she matters to you, not just because you need her company, but because you still love her. So if you've stopped showing affection, if you've stopped making her feel special, it's time to start again. Next time you go out together, tell her she looks beautiful. Hold her hand just because. Wrap your arms around her, not because you have to, but because you want to. Kiss her on the forehead when she's least expecting it. And most importantly, talk to her. Not just about what's on TV, not just about what's for dinner, but about life, about how she feels, about what she wants in these later years. Because if she has already started to emotionally withdraw, this is your wake-up call. What wives need to hear. And wives, I know how exhausting it is to be the one who notices all of this, to be the one who craves more, who wishes for something deeper, who feels like she's carrying the emotional burden of the relationship. But don't give up yet. If your husband doesn't see the distance growing, tell him. Tell him what you need. Tell him you still want love, connection, intimacy. Because sometimes men don't realize what's slipping away until it's already gone. Why this matters for your marriage. If you're still watching, I know this means something to you. It means you care about your relationship. It means you don't want to wake up one day, sitting across from your spouse in silence, wondering where the love went. But here's the good news: it's not too late. Love doesn't fade overnight. It fades in the small, unnoticed moments, but it can also be rebuilt in small, meaningful moments. So tonight, husbands, reach for her hand. Tell her you appreciate her. Make her feel like she still matters. And wives, if this resonated with you, share it with your husband. Let him hear these words, because marriage isn't just about staying together. It's about choosing each other every single day. If this spoke to you, tell me in the comments. Do you relate to Linda's story? Have you ever felt this way? Let's talk about it. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because love doesn't disappear all at once. It fades in the moments when we stop paying attention. But if we truly try, we can bring it back. Linda sat on the porch one afternoon watching the wind ripple through the trees. She could hear Mark inside, moving around, flipping through channels on the TV. She had spent decades taking care of their home, their children, their life together. But now, as she sat there in the quiet of her later years, a thought settled into her heart, one that had been growing for a long time. Is this really how I want to spend the rest of my life? She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad anymore. She was just tired. Tired of trying. Tired of waiting for things to change. Tired of feeling unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. And that's when it hit her. Life was too short to keep living this way. When a woman realizes life is short, something shifts inside a woman as she gets older. She starts attending more funerals. She watches friends and family members fall ill. She sees people around her facing the harsh reality of time running out. And then one day, she looks at her own life and thinks, if I only have 10, maybe 20 years left, how do I want to spend them? And that's when many women begin to withdraw, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. They stop nagging because they're done begging for attention. They stop trying to fix things because they realize they're the only ones who ever tried. They stop fighting for love because they don't want to waste the years they have left feeling lonely in their own marriage. And that's how a marriage dies. Not in one big dramatic moment, but in the quiet decision of a woman choosing herself over a relationship that no longer fulfills her. The final stage of emotional detachment. When a woman stops feeling valued in her marriage, she begins to build a life outside of it. She starts spending more time with friends. She picks up new hobbies. She travels, she learns, she grows. And slowly, her husband, the man who was once the center of her world, becomes just another person she shares a house with. Some women stay in the marriage but live emotionally separate lives. Others, when they realize they cannot bear the loneliness any longer, leave. And when that happens, many husbands are left stunned, asking, "What happened? I thought everything was fine." But it was never fine. He just wasn't paying attention. The solution: a wake-up call for husbands. Husbands, listen to me. If your wife has started to pull away, if she no longer seems interested in deep conversations, in affection, in you, don't ignore it. Don't assume she's just moody or going through something. She is at a crossroads, and if you don't wake up now, if you don't start showing her that she still matters to you, you might lose her forever. Not necessarily to another man, but to a life that no longer includes you. So what can you do? Start listening, not halfway, not distractedly. Really listen. Show appreciation, not once, not when you feel guilty, every day. Make an effort, not for a week, not for a month, consistently. Because at the end of the day, women don't leave marriages because they stop loving their husbands. They leave because they realize they deserve more than just existing in someone else's life. What wives need to hear. And wives, if this is resonating with you, if you're sitting there nodding along thinking, this is exactly how I feel, I want you to know, your feelings are valid. You are not wrong for wanting to be cherished, seen, and valued. But before you make any decisions, before you emotionally detach completely, try one last conversation. Sit your husband down and tell him, I am not happy. I need more from this marriage, and if something doesn't change, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. If he truly loves you, he will listen, and if he doesn't, then maybe it's time to start asking yourself the harder questions about what you want for the rest of your life. Why this matters for your future. If you're still watching, that means you care. That means you don't want to wake up one day sitting across from your spouse in silence, realizing it's too late. But here's the good news. It's not too late. Because love doesn't disappear overnight. It fades in the unnoticed moments, but it can also be rekindled in the moments where we start paying attention again. So husbands, if your wife has started pulling away, don't wait until she's already gone to realize what you had. And wives, if you still have hope, if you still want to make this work, speak up before you stop caring entirely. Because marriage isn't about just staying together. It's about choosing each other every single day. If this video spoke to you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt like Linda? Have you ever realized too late that your wife had been pulling away? Let's talk about it. And if you found this helpful, Don't forget to like and subscribe, because love doesn't disappear in one grand moment, it fades in the small, unnoticed ones. But if we try, if we truly try, we can bring it back.